Good morning, fellow Toastmasters. I hope everybody's doing great today. Nice sunny day out here. I'm sure it's also sunny in North Carolina where Dave is. This is the last in-person meeting until September. Next week will be the last in-person meeting. We will do the officers induction then. I have a special ceremony planned, so that should be fun. I did want to give shout out to the incoming officers. They already did the training. We had 5 that I'm aware of that did attend, so that's awesome. Even had Kate attend, even though she's not 100%. Kate also recruited 3 more people for our group here to join. So that's exciting. So we actually will make presidents distinguished, getting those under the wire. So that is awesome. There are a lot of educational awards pending. We're going to kind of save those until next year so we can start off strong. Any other announcements from the floor? Okay, well, let's do the pledge to the flag first. I pledge allegiance to the flag, the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, liberty and justice for all. Is Mark Crane there by chance? Beth, I see you at the podium. I think the lectern is muted.
Is that better?
Yes, we hear you now.
Okay. No, he is not here.
Okay. As every Toastmaster should be, I am prepared for an inspirational quote today, is what I will do. The purpose of life, after all, is to live it, to taste experience to the utmost, to reach out eagerly and live without fear for newer and richer experiences. Eleanor Roosevelt, Jackie Kenny's favorite. At this point in the meeting, I'll turn it over to Beth, our Toastmaster today. Warm welcome, please.
Thank you very much. Good morning, fellow Toastmasters. And we're worth getting up for. Some of us get up a little slower than others get up, I think, my opinion. I'm going to be talking about the benefit of naps today, although truthfully, I rarely took naps. They usually made me feel worse. And then I just couldn't really get out of that fog. And then COVID hit last October. And I've been napping since COVID hit off and on. Not every day now, but I've definitely been napping. And according to the Mayo Clinic, there are a variety of benefits of napping, including relaxation, improved mood, reduced fatigue, increased alertness, and increased performance. So I did take a nap yesterday, so hopefully it helped me today with coming and doing what I should be doing. And I will now introduce some of the role here. Jackie Kenny, you are the word master. Now, did we combine word?
It's
okay.
not combined on the agenda, but I can do them all.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
And the word for today will be restfulness. And I think there's nothing like a nice nap, but you have to set it up properly. On top of the covers, but with an Afghan, quiet room, really relax, 15 or 20 minutes, recharge. Thank you, madam. Oh, and I will do the and grammarian as well. So everybody better be on their best vocabulary this morning. Thank you.
Thank you, Jackie. Thank you, Jackie. Our next role is Tracy Farrell. She is not here yet, so we'll skip over her and come back to her. How's that?
Madam Toastmaster?
Oh, you're online. Hi.
I made it.
Very good. Thank you.
So our quote for the day yesterday was Flag Day. And I had no idea what our theme was for today. So it was more,
Sorry.
it's going to be not your fault. The theme is going to rest around Flag Day, and it's by Theodore Roosevelt. I am American, free born, free bred, where I acknowledge no man is my superior except for his own worth, or as my inferior except for his own demerit. Theodore Roosevelt. Madam Toastmaster.
Thank you, Tracy. Our jester for today, I do see online, Mike Licata.
Good morning, Madam Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters. A man has a very smart dog. Over the years, he trained the dog to buy his beer. The routine is that he slips a $10 bill under the dog's collar, and the dog will trot down to the corner bar where the barman knew to take the $10 and give the dog a 6-pack of cheap beer in a brown paper bag. The dog would then trot back home with the bag in his mouth. One night, the guy finds that he hasn't got a $10 bill, so instead he takes a 20 and slips it under the collar, figuring the barman will put the change in the paper bag. Off the dog went. After a few minutes, the dog hadn't appeared. The man waits another few minutes, still no dog. He pulls on his boots and heads out towards the corner bar, looking all over the streets and yards. No dog. Finally, he arrives at the bar, pulls open the door, and sees the dog sitting on the bar still drinking a martini. What's this? The guy says, dumbfounded. You've never done this before. To which the dog replies, I've never had the money before. Madam Toastmaster.
Very good. Thank you, Mike. Our timer for today is Marty willing to step in here? So I thank Marty.
Good morning, Madam Toastmaster of the day. Beth, fellow Toastmasters. This timer this morning, I'll be carefully listening and paying attention to everyone that speaks during the portions of the meeting, table topics, the speaking portion, and the evaluation. Len will be having the colors, the green, yellow, red online on the computer screen for our online members today. And I'll be raising the green, yellow, and red cards. For table topics, the parameters are 1 to 2 minutes with a 15-second buffer either side. The speaking portion, it looks like both our speakers are 5 to 7 minutes this morning. The lights at 5, 6, and 7 with a 30-second buffer. And the evaluation portion, 2 to 3 minutes with the lights at 2, 2:30, and 3 minutes with a 30-second buffer. And I am very rested, and I will be maybe have a little restfulness during the meeting, but I'll be reporting back after each portion of the meeting on the timing. Thank you, Madam Toastmaster of the day.
Thank you very much, Marty, especially for stepping in. Our next role for the day is our quiz master, Carol Ann.
Today, I hope that everyone is listening because at the end, I will be questioning all of you as to how much you remember. And I like naps. And sometimes it's usually after lunch when the tiredness hits me. And maybe I'll sit down, turn the TV on, and then all of a sudden, whether I planned on it or not, I'm taking a nap. Toastmaster.
And now we come to the portion of our meeting where we have our table topics. Gerald Stevens has agreed to be the table topics master for today. I am sure he has some very good questions for our table topics people. Gerald?
Thank you, Beth. I do see a few people online, and possibly we'll have to have a few people in the room do dual roles. That is not uncommon. I think we only have 2 speakers today. So as per our tradition, usually we do 5 table topics questions. I looked online and I found 365 table topics questions, and I printed them out. So, so if you ever need table topics questions, you can go online. I also I think we might have this at our club, but dig out sometime the tool where there's a deck of cards and you draw a question from that. So we'll have to dig those out. I think we have that somewhere. But being that I'm online, I have a few questions. Mark Campos, I see you are here today and ready to go.
I am indeed here.
Okay, you're not feeling restful, needing some restfulness, I hope. Well, he'll wake up in a second. This is a very broad topic, so it gives you a lot to work with. And as you know, tabletop participants, you could change the topic as well if you don't like my question. So that gives you an out. What gets you excited about life? What gets you excited about life, Mark?
Thank you, Mr. Table Topics Master, fellow Toastmasters. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for this opportunity. As broad as that question is, and I'm sure I could work with it, I think I'd rather talk about naps and restfulness and things like that, because probably a little bit more in my wheelhouse. Now, in my household, I'm not one to have like what I would consider the structured nap, like the planned, structured. I'm going upstairs on a Saturday after lunch and I'm going to take a snooze for a couple of hours. Now that's my wife. She does that a la Jackie Kenney. She lays on top of the comforter with a blanket, often perpendicular to the direction of the bed. I'm not sure what that's all about, but sometimes she does that. I know she likes to take a nap with the dog. For me, for this guy, it may not be the most restful way to take a nap, but mine tend to be the unplanned. I'm watching TV or I'm reading something and I just nod off for a little bit. And I guess you could probably call it a nap, where after dinner, when I'm watching a ball game or just watching something on TV, I tend to fall asleep on the couch till, say, I don't know, 1 a.m., 2 a.m., something like that. I guess it probably fits the definition of a nap. May not be the most restful sleep at all when I have to force myself to get up and go up to the bedroom, but that's what I have to say about naps, Mr. Table Topics Master.
Thank you, Mark. Our next question is for Steve Smith. He'd like to make his way up to the podium.
Oh,
Lectern, sorry. I need some more rests. Apparently a nap would be in order. I see Steve is up there. This is also a very broad question for you, Steve. And hopefully you can work with it. Again, if you do not like it, you can change the topic. Where do you find inspiration, Steve? Where do you find inspiration in life? Steve Smith.
Well, thank you, Mr. Table Topics Master. Where do I find inspiration in life? In many things. I get up in the morning, I have my coffee, I read the newspaper. Generally, I read the obituaries. If I am not in the obituaries, I find that a great inspiration to keep going with the rest of the day. However, talking more about the topic of restfulness. Oddly enough, Thursday is the only day I usually take a nap because I don't normally get up this early anymore. I did so for over 30 years while I worked for a living, and they told me, you'll get used to it. They lied. I can say with much assurance that after doing this for over 30 years, I never got used to it. That is not to say that I'm taking it easy since I retired. I think I'm busier than I ever been. But when I do take my naps, I find it refreshing and I don't have to punch a time clock. So I work for a couple hours and I say, I got to sit down for a while. I find that restfulness very useful. Then I go back and work again. Now, when I say work, once I get going, I will work till it gets dark out and sometimes beyond, depending on what we are doing. The last couple of days, we moved what, over 100 yards of wood chips that we got. Price was right. They were cutting trees behind us. You want the wood chips? Yes. So they trucked them in and we bucketed them into the tractor and took them in the back. That's not to say the tractor did all the work. We had to, she'd come in, pick up what she could, and then we'd fill it up by hand the rest of the way so she could take a full load back every time. And after doing that for 2 days, restfulness is the last thing on my mind. I'm pretty wore out, but I'm glad it's done. We have a great pile of mulch back there. Now it can sit there and age for a couple of years till we need it. So thank you for this opportunity to get up and vent a little. I wouldn't have it any other way. Thank you.
Thank you, Steve. Sylvia, our next table topics participant. I know this is an area that she wants to work on, so I had to make sure that I gave her a question today. What can you do today, Sylvia, that you're not capable of years ago or even a year ago?
Wow, that is an interesting question, Mr. Table Topics Master. Thank you for giving me this opportunity. Yeah, I do want to work on this skill. What could I do today I couldn't do when I was younger? Is that the question? I thought I could do more when I was younger. I was more energetic. I didn't use the napping. I was less restfulness time for me when I was younger because we had younger kids and they were very active in sports. So we would run to one baseball diamond with one child and go to the next county to the other baseball diamond with the other child, or little league football or soccer. I don't know if I could do that today. And sometimes I sit there and think, oh my God, how did I do this for 18 years or 19 years of their life? I felt like, but when it stopped, I really missed it. And I really think I did more younger than I could do today because I slowed down. And I look at my house and there's things that have to be done. There's rooms that have to be painted, rugs have to be replaced. And my husband decides to give my younger son a second wedding here after the first one in July. So we'll have 2 weddings this year for one child. Who figures? But and then he invited all these people to come after to our house, and I'm looking at them and saying, are you going to paint that room? Are you going to do some remodeling? Are you doing some yard work? Where are we putting these people? And he just shrugs his head and says, we'll do it. So I think I could do more when I was younger than today. Today, I just look at it and walk away.
Thank you, Sylvia. David Jones, I do know you have a role, but would you be willing to do table topics?
Yes, sir. I'd be happy to.
Great. Question I have for you today, of course, you can change it if you desire. What do you love most about yourself?
Thank you, Mr. Table Topics Master. And it kind of goes in line with the question you just asked Sylvia, is just been building confidence since I started with Toastmasters. I'm doing things now that I never thought I'd be doing 4 or 5 years ago. Case in point, as you all know, I'm the club growth director here in District 37 now, elect. And even a year ago when I became a division director, I never thought I would run for such a role. And I figured, why not? Let's see what happens. And sure enough, it worked out. in my professional career as an insurance auditor, part of the National Association of Auditors. I never thought I'd be involved. I've been a member for 20 years as just like an individual person at club level, but now I'm in various committees for the national level. It all comes back to Toastmasters, just giving me that confidence. I think I just try so many things. Another great example is today, about 3 years ago, and my book as you know, I wrote a book called How to Do Life Without the Wife. I sat on the sofa for 4 years after my divorce and was bored, did nothing. And I joined a meetup group that was a networking group. And that kind of got me into Toastmasters. I couldn't even introduce myself. There's a big room of people. And, it was like, hi, I'm David. But I stayed sitting down. And I was so nervous. And I thought this was ridiculous. I can't introduce myself. So I started with Toastmasters. And today we have a meeting 3-4 years later, and I'm the co-host of the meeting. So I went from not even being able to introduce myself to actually leading the group. And it's been a wonderful experience. And I think it all started with Toastmasters. Back to you, Mr. Table Topics Master.
Thank you, David. We couldn't razz Mark about the Yankees because the Mets won yesterday. So all worked out even.
Duly noted, yes.
Eric, are you available? I didn't think he would be. It was worth a try. I know he's busy working. Tracy, would you be willing to do a table topics?
I will. Thank you, Mr. Table Topics Master.
Question I have for you today is, what is the one thing you would change about the world if you were omnipotent?
Why, thank you, Mr. Table Topics Master. That's almost like a Miss America question. Peace, of course, world peace. However, the rest of us have to rest and take life as it comes. It really is, I think all of us have individual journeys, and as we go through life, we just kind of take it in those little bits and pieces as we can take it. I know David talked about, he started off not being able to speak and grew that confidence. Everybody knows I went through that same journey when I joined Toastmasters. Right now, my biggest journey is, and I don't know why I got onto this, because 5 years ago, I could have cared less about sustainability. And I'm not that person that really does, but the more I go through, it's just a journey for me right now to be able to grow my own food. Everybody knows I was making wine a couple of years ago. I still do that. My newest passion now is roasting coffee. In the last couple of years, I was learning how to can. Now I have a garden. I'm trying to grow my own food. I am going to be one of those off the grid people someday. That is my goal. I know it will never happen. And God help me if it ever does happen, then I'm like that backwoods. But it is a journey for me. It's something that I just enjoy doing right now. It's something I couldn't have done 10, 15 years ago. It's not something, you have to have time. You have to be able to have the money to be able to do it. Sometimes it is more expensive roasting your own coffee or making your own wine. It can be more expensive, but it's a journey. It's a passion. Keeps me out of trouble, and hopefully someday I will be more sustainable. And in the process, rested. Thank you, Mr. Table Topics Master.
Thank you, Tracy. Like to call for 2 reports. Mr. Timer, if you could make your way up to the lectern. How are we doing in regards to time?
Yeah, thank you, Gerald, Mr. President, Club President, and Mr. Topics Master. All our contestants qualified for time. Mark, 141. Steve Smith, 155. Sylvia, 217. David Jones, 151, and Tracy Farrell, 210. And I could call for the Wordmaster report, Jackie Kenny. Jackie.
All right. I heard Mark use the word, Steve, Sylvia. Tracy used rest twice, so maybe that will equal restfulness. I did not hear David Jones use the word. If I missed it, I apologize.
You said no, so I guess not.
I guess not. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. And moving along, I'm going to ask David Jones to come back. He is our general evaluator today. So David, could you explain what you're going to be doing, what you've been doing, really? Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Toastmaster. And my little restfulness story, even though it's too late. The only time I take naps in the middle of the day is when I'm babysitting the grandkids or I'm with them. For whatever reason, I look forward to their nap time because they still are at the age where they take naps. And I'm right there with them. So that is my restfulness story. But as general evaluator, I've been evaluating the meeting as a whole and look forward to hearing our individual evaluators give their feedback to our speakers, and I will report when called upon. Thank you, Madam Toastmaster.
Thank you very much, David. And moving along to our speeches, our evaluators today are going to be Jill Roaring and Len Thornton. If you look at the agenda, we kind of skipped over number 1 in both. We're going to go right to number 2. So our number 2 speaker is Dave Licata. He is going to be evaluated by Jill Roaring. Jill.
All right, Mr. Dave is doing innovative planning. Is what I can't remember what it said. It says here. Oh, it says right here. Innovative planning, level 3 elective. Know your sense of humor, which this one should be fairly easy for Dave. His time is 5 to 7 minutes. His title is Dying is Easy. I'm not sure if he's talking about dying as in keeling over, or if he's talking about dying as in making something a different color. I hope we will find out, and hopefully he doesn't keel over while he's doing this. As he slowly makes his way up here.
Attention, Mr. Timer, attention, Mr. Timer. I'm going to do a little bit on restfulness before I start my speech. My most memorable nap, 25 years ago, before I was diagnosed with sleep apnea, I take naps all the time. The best one, I was working in Tonawanda on behalf of the Cotter Brothers Wholesale. And I was really feeling drowsy. And I said, I better pull over. I found a spot in a convenience store where I was completely out of sight of the owners and anybody else that wanted to use the store. And I pulled the car up to this lovely redwood fence and immediately nodded off. And I don't know, 15, 20 minutes later, I came to. The first thing I saw was the fence, and I went, oh, I'm parked. Well, enough of that. Madam Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters and guests, what I'm going to attempt to do this morning is help you deal with humor. There was a famous English actor, maybe 150 years ago. And sadly, he was dying. So in the room, he had all his, for lack of a better term, wise guy actor friends in the room with him when he was ready to set sail for the next realm. And being the wise guys, they said, tell me, they were English, tell me, what is dying hard? He said, no, dying is easy. Comedy is hard. And never forget that phrase. Because in my long history of little theater, I finally got a dramatic part, which stunned me, where I was going to be the murderer and dial M for murder. And I said, this is a lot easier than my comedy roles. And truly it was. You just have to come out and act a little bit curious and crazy and a little bit repulsed at the idea that you're being recruited to murder somebody. But comedy is a whole different beast. So where do you get your inspiration? I'm going to share with you my long history of seeking comic inspiration. It probably started when I was very young, and Channel 7 used to run a movie every Sunday. And that was right after Grandma Fonzie made the pasta. So we would all retire to the television room and watch the movie of the week. And this is when TV was really mining all those screwball comedies from the 30s. And I fell in love with that because I love those quick comebacks, those witty remarks. And, being young, I never dreamed that they were honed by script writers for hours and days and weeks and then rehearsed. And I just thought it was, clicking right away. So I enjoyed the hell out of that. Now move forward, I'm 6th grade and I am badgering my dad. I want to work at the cigar store, Dad, come on. And what the hell was I thinking when I wanted a job in 6th grade? So I had a huge selection of magazines. And that's when I discovered the New Yorker magazine and its huge treasure trough of cartoons. And these are ever so witty because these people are from, guess where? New York. And the themes are New York. And there's a speech out there on the horizon because I bought a book about a county in Connecticut. Before you could fax in or email in your work, you had to live in this county in Connecticut. So you could get on the train with your cartoons under your arm and take them to the New Yorker or take them to the newspapers or the other magazines. Now, a lot of witty cartoonists, New Yorker style cartoonists, they all lived in one county in Connecticut because of the proximity to the city, and they could hop on the train and take their work in. They were also joined in that county by the author of Prince Valiant, Beetle Bailey, Hager the Horrible, and they were all friends. And just a little aside that you might find amusing, Hager the Horrible, you look at this and you say, well, my 8-year-old could draw this bad. But that's the style that cartoonist chose, because when the gentleman that wrote Prince Valiant came down sick and couldn't do the strip, his dear friend who did Hager the Horrible came over and drew every bit as well as he did for this, lack of a better term, panoramic Technicolor, more a movie than anything else, comic strip. And when the Buffalo News cut Prince Valiant, they were greeted the next morning with a crowd of older people with torches and pitchforks. So that was the New Yorker. The other magazine at the good old cigar store was Naturally Mad. But I really got more humor out of National Lampoon. And it was from National Lampoon that I had to roast when I did the roast back at Friendly's, I don't know, 11 million years ago. And I knew the only person would be that I could count on that would be at that meeting so I could roast them was the Toastmaster of the day. So I took pages from the National Lampoon spoof of a yearbook, because that's the only way you're going to spoof Jackie Kenney. So thank God I had that in my back pages. The other source naturally is the Marx Brothers. There was a revival of the Marx Brothers 50 years ago. I knew a little bit about them. I knew a little about Groucho from watching You Bet Your Life. I wasn't that familiar with the movies, but now they had revival. So you're in a theater, you're watching Night at the Opera for the first time. Groucho was sitting at a two-top in a restaurant with a drop-dead gorgeous starlet blonde. And Margaret Dumont, his foil, is at the next table wondering where he is, but they're sitting back to back so they don't see each other. And they bring the bill out to Groucho. He looks at the bill, he says, "That's outrageous. If I was you, I wouldn't pay it," and hands it to the blonde. So there's some resources for you, Madam Toastmaster.
You wrinkled my paper. Thank you very much, Dave. And moving on to our second speech, although labeled in your agenda, speech 3, we're going to have that evaluated by Len Thornton. So Len, if you could come up and tell us what Thomas is going to be speaking about. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters, both here and in Zoom land. First off, restfulness. I have the luxury at this stage of my life of being able to work from home probably 80% of the time. So it's a 10-second walk to my couch at any point during the day. And after some particularly thought-intensive operations, it's nice to go over there and kind of nod off, power nap, as I call it, power nap. And I arise and I get back to work with even more vigor and energy. Works out great. Unfortunately, 10 seconds away is also the refrigerator. So there's temptation there. Now then, Thomas Heldwine is speaking from Pathways Dynamic Leadership, Understanding Your Leadership Style. His purpose is to identify his primary leadership style or styles. This is a 5 to 7 minute speech, Mr. Timer, and I will go ahead and introduce him. Thomas Heldwine, doing Context is Everything. Please welcome Thomas Heldwine.
Before I start, I love naps. Problem with my naps is they usually last 6 to 8 hours. The other day I went to bed at 2:30 in the afternoon, and I woke up at about 4 a.m. And it was like, where'd the that kind of dream where it's like, oh, that was 14 hours nap. That's not good. Which is actually one reason why I own cats, is because they won't let you be too restful. They'll wake you up. But all right, go ahead and start. All of us here are on Pathways by now. And if you are, there's a module that almost everyone here has taken, Determine Your Leadership. You answer a bunch of questions, and it's a range. They allow you like from 1 to 5. I never do this, or I always do this. I don't think that's the right way to actually determine what leadership style you have, I found myself tied once again in like 5 out of the 8 categories at like 20 out of 25 points. I'm like, why is this happening again? I thought maybe if I approached it differently. So I sat down and not worrying about the results of what my leadership style was, but why was I getting these results saying that multiple leadership styles? Well, I think it had to do with the context that I put myself in for the question. There's different types of the 2 of the furthest ones from each other are personal development, like development of the team, and authoritarian leadership, right? So if you put yourself in the point where you're an authoritarian leader, you're like, all right, you go do this, you go do this, you go do this, you go do this. How's he doing with that? How's he doing with that? Go check on him. You're making decisions. It has to be fast. You're going to do it. But team development, well, let's talk about being a parent. You're developing a small little team, a whole bunch of little rugrats. You're helping them with their homework. Maybe you're taking them to scouting and learning how to camp. Maybe you're taking them fishing for the first time. Is that leadership even close to the other one? Not really. It's not time urgent. You're investing in every individual. You're looking at how well they're doing and helping them to become a better person or better at the task you're working and trying to lead. So the context of your mind when you're taking the test, if you have one leadership thing in your mind, that's where it sits. And then you will get a high score in one. But if you look at each question and say, oh, do I ever ask other people for their input or opinions? Well, of course I do, because other people have good ideas. If the situation has enough time. If it's a medical emergency, you don't have time to get everyone's opinion and whether you should put a tourniquet on. You just do it. So I have 3 quick examples. Authoritarian leadership. We went down as drill sergeants from Western New York here, 98th Division, to go support Fort Jackson with basic training. Well, we get down there and we get assigned to this, 3 of us out of the 15 get assigned to this one company. And this first sergeant is horrible. He is cruel. He is selfish. He berates his fellow soldiers, his peers, and the drill sergeants working under him. So I'm like, what's wrong with this guy? Well, luckily, most of us reserve drill sergeants are older than the guys in the active duty military. And we know guys who know guys who know guys. It didn't take long to find out why this guy was the way he was. This is a guy who his life was not very good. And he was never a very good person to begin with. My leadership came in the moment he started berating one of my fellow soldiers. I was the highest ranking at the time. And I basically told them to leave. I was like, just not a nonverbal cue, if you will. Leave. And I rolled into him so hard, and I was using all the facts I'd learned. I heard you got a trainee pregnant when you were a drill sergeant, that the father came and made you have a shotgun wedding. I heard that you were caught stealing money. I heard this. I'm like, I know all this about you. If you don't want every single soldier under your command to know about this stuff, you will leave me and the other 2 reserve drill sergeants completely out of your crosshairs with your evil, spiteful attitude. I don't want any of it. That went quickly. That was in the moment. Had to happen. Parenting, I kind of touched on it. That, of course, is personal development. I don't know if I did the best job at it. Again, as you're going through answering the questions, a lot of questions do relate to that. Do you support the development of team members? And then my favorite thing to do is to be on a development team, R&D, making something new. When you make something new, no idea is a bad idea. Not necessarily, but for the most part, right. People will make you think in new directions. And you may have your own personal biases, but you can't hold on to them. I was a member of at least 2 groups where I can't even remember to this day who was the leader, because we all equally put in. And I may have been the leader on one because I followed up on people's like to-do items. But for the most part, we didn't need a leader. We all came into the room happy. So to conclude, there are 2 types of leaders. And this goes for politicians. This goes for managers at work. This even goes for parents. There are those who demand respect because of their leadership position as a parent, as a president, as a first sergeant, or as your manager at work. But there are those who inspire you, and wouldn't matter if they had the title. You would follow them anyways, no matter what. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Thomas. Really made me think truthfully about my style of leadership at the festival. And I think I'm 2 different styles depending on if it's leading up to the festival or if it's at the festival. Leading up, I try to get all the teams working together and doing things together. At the festival, there isn't time for that. I have to make decisions that, no, you do this, let's go here. My head is usually spinning, but those are the types of things. So it really made me think. Thank you, Thomas. We're going to get back to our timers report. Sorry. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Toastmaster Beth. Both speakers qualified, David Licata, 657, and Thomas Heldwine, 647. Thank you. Back to you, Madam Toastmaster.
This is like moving the car back and forth in my family, because of course, as most of you know, my husband is 6'1". So whatever the cable is that moves, the seat back and forth. Oh, wow. Do we always like kind of overuse that? So that's what this is like here. Restfulness. Can we just go to that, right? I will say that the Mayo Clinic also has some negative effects of napping. I experienced this, the BC, the before COVID. If I took a nap, sleep inertia, they call it, grogginess, or being kind of disoriented. So nighttime sleep problems. Yes, if you go to sleep at 2:30 and you don't wake up till 4, I think could consider that your nighttime sleep. But you might want to consider napping if you experience new fatigue, which is what I did after COVID. I was exhausted. Some people want to make planned naps part of their routine. My father did that. Every day he came home from work and it was a 20-minute nap. So he followed the Mayo Clinic rules because they think if you're going to take a nap in the afternoon, it should be 10 to 20 minutes. My father was, you could set a clock by him. He went upstairs, 20 minutes later, he came back down. He'd had his nap. One of the things they said, you could consider napping, I have to say I disagree with. If you are about to experience sleep loss, as in working a long work shift, you should take a nap first. That has never worked for me. oh, I should go to sleep. And it will make me feel better after. Yeah, that doesn't really work for me. Just, oh, you should sleep now. That's when I'm awake. Now, like some of you sit in front of the TV, go to sleep, but for someone to say, okay, you better, I should sleep now. Doesn't work. One of the things Mayo Clinic suggests is to take your naps in the early afternoon. If you go to a nap after 3, that is definitely going to affect your sleepiness at night and whether you really get that restful little nap. They do recommend to set your stage, to have a dark place, comfortable room temperature, have few distractions. You could have 2 dogs sitting with you while you're taking your nap. They love to take a nap and they arrange themselves, whether I'm taking a little nap in my chair or on my bed, they will arrange themselves the way they want. Particularly Teddy, he has learned that if I sit in my chair, kind of on one side, he gets on the other side and he does this till he gets back in the right position, and then he's good. They do recommend if you're experiencing an increased need for sleep, and there doesn't seem to be a reason for that, call your doctor. Talk to your doctor about why you seem to be needing more sleep. For myself, I'm getting to the point where I only take maybe 3 or 4 naps a week instead of every single day. When we had a big work day at the fairgrounds on Tuesday, sanding and refinishing the tables and benches we bought last year, I took a nap yesterday, trying to catch up for that. So sometimes I need a nap. Sometimes I'm okay without having a nap, but it does help to create that restfulness in us. So I would like to move on to our evaluations. And Jill, can you come up and evaluate Dave Licata for us? Thank you very much.
Came from the wrong direction there. Well, good morning, fellow Toastmasters here and in Zoom land, and especially Dave. Dying is easy. Okay, we did find out that this was about the actual keeling over part, about dying. Dave did a fantastic job of setting up the transition from dying, which is what you think this speech is all about, to comedy. And pointing out that comedy really isn't all that easy. About all the writers of jokes, which has been in the news the last couple of days about all of Joan Rivers' jokes going to National Comedy Museum. And apparently it is a massive amount of jokes that she has written and typed up and categorized over the years. But Dave has other sources for his jokes. And he showed them, he actually had an example of one. And how he started them from when he was in 6th grade. And picking up the New Yorker in the magazine shop. Now, I would think most 6th grade boys would be picking up some other magazines in the magazine shop. But just for the cartoons, yes. And the art, he didn't read the articles at that point. And his other sources for comedy over the years. And it was interesting how he explained how some of these sources, the history of them. And I thought that was all very fascinating. One thing I noticed when Dave was doing his speech, which it's kind of surprising because of his experience, is that first he seemed to be gripping the lectern. But then I realized he wasn't so much gripping as he was resting on it. So maybe that's okay. I think it would have been nice if during your speech, you would have inserted jokes periodically throughout the speech and not just ended with a joke at the end. Even just talking about a little cartoon that was particularly funny. And that is what I believe is what I've evaluated you on, Dave. It was a very interesting speech, informative. And I'm glad we got to hear it. Thank you.
This is getting a workout today. Thank you very much, Jill, for your evaluation. And we move on to Len Thornton, who will be evaluating Thomas Houdwine. Thank you, Len.
Thank you, Madam Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters. And especially Thomas. You did what I just did. You came out in front of the lectern right away, holding the microphone in your hand. And you did something that's actually very rare. Sadly, it's very rare in this club. You kept the microphone near your mouth. You modulated it, okay? You didn't swing it to this as you're talking. You kept it here and used your other hand to hold your notes and make gestures. It's not that hard to do, guys. Okay. Other things you excelled at. Your pace, smooth. And you are a veteran Toastmaster, so these should be a given. Eye contact. I saw you looking around, pausing for a few seconds, looking at someone else, pausing. Your vocal variety. You stepped it up in a few places with a little bit louder, more forceful speech to make a point. It was good. Your facial expressions and gestures were natural and abundant in the speech. Now, things he could work on. I felt, this is my impression, the organization could flow a little smoother. It seemed like it was jumping around just a little bit. And when you finished your speech, you said thank you. That's the cardinal sin of speaking. It is us who should be thanking you for giving the speech. The correct way to finish a speech, and it's not at all natural. A lot of people say thank you, even professionals. The preferred way to finish a speech in Toastmasters is to simply stop talking and then say, Madam Toastmaster, as you return the lectern to them. To challenge yourself, and you knew I was going to nail you on this, post your title and your subject on the club site ahead of time for the courtesy of your evaluator so that we can properly prepare your introduction. And something that's missing in a lot of speeches, I feel, is a really punchy opening and closing. Spend about half your time in speech development on those two factors. We got that context is everything from your title, and that obviously led into we adapt our leadership style for the situation. But a really impactful opening and closing will stay in the memories of the listeners far longer. Great speech. We look forward to your next one. Madam Toastmaster.
There you go, Len. Force me in front. That's fine. So we come to the portion of our meeting where our let's see, we have to do the timer first, correct? Timer of the evaluations. So I will give it to Marty now.
Thank you, Madam Toastmaster of the day. Beth, both evaluators qualified Jill Roaring at 322 and Len Thornton at 250. Thank you, Madam Toastmaster.
Thank you very much. Now, I believe we move on to our general evaluator. David Jones, are you ready to evaluate our meeting?
Yes, Madam Toastmaster, thank you very much.
Would you like to call for the reports at the end?
Sure, that'd be great.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Well, I want to start with the whole subject of the microphone. I guess I am double-edged sword. I feel if you're taller and you know somebody shorter than you is coming up, maybe you should put the microphone down for them. But then the other side of the coin is if you're shorter and you know somebody taller is coming, maybe you should put it up for them. Sort of like the toilet seat issue, where most women like us to put the toilet seat down, but I always felt, why don't you put the toilet seat up when you're done? So I guess we have to just figure out the microphone up or down issue. But we started the meeting on time, which is always good because we want to be respectful of everybody's time. When Jill came up to introduce Dave, I thought she was very witty and funny. And I've always wondered about her and Steve. They're quirky, but I came to the conclusion today they kind of have a British humor where it's very subtle. For instance, Steve said he reads the obituaries, and if he's not in it, he's going to have a good day. I thought that was very humorous. But as Dave was walking up, Jill indicated that he was slowly making his way up. Now, as soon as she said that, I had this thought of when I was a kid watching Abbott Costello do the Niagara Falls skit, where slowly he turned step by step. And I thought that would have been a great part of her introduction of Dave as he was slowly walking up. But it's just funny how we think of things from kids. Now, both of our evaluators did a great job. Jill did the sandwich. She talked about the positives, gave him some good feedback, and then also finished with more positives. Where Lynn followed the evaluation form, which is an important part where we have the challenge at the end of it, and he kind of gave us some feedback about ways they could improve the speech. And Carol Ann was next to the lectern. She was ready to go. You know, we didn't have to wait for her to get up from her seat, come all the way up. So I thought that was great. Also, our Toastmaster of the day protected the lectern. She was next to it as possible as she could be to be ready to go. And then Thomas also, he came back, he left, and then he came back to give a fist bump because he knew we had to do that transition, which is an important part of Toastmasters. And table topics had some good questions. I like that he went online and found the questions. He also mentioned deck of cards. I'm in a club where recently we found a deck of cards underneath something and I didn't even know they existed. I thought those were wonderful, although some of them are older and probably not politically correct, so you have to kind of shuffle through them and say not this one, but I do like the deck of cards. But overall, good meeting, and I do have a challenge for AM Lockport. You all are masters out of all the clubs I've worked at for getting the agenda done. Now, you had a few openings today, and it was great that Dr. Stevens stepped in and did the inspirational speech. You should always have something ready to go. But you all are masters at usually filling it up. Last night I went to a club, their monthly club, and it's called Eat Your Words. We meet at a restaurant, and they do a grab bag where you get there and no rolls are filled. They have them all in there. You just pick them out, and it's a wonderful way of, I don't know, it was fun. I had never seen that done before. I don't know if you've all ever tried that, but I think I'm going to try some of my other clubs because I thought it was wonderful. With that, I'm going to go ahead and call on our word master / grammarian, Jackie Kenny. And you're on mute. Still on mute. Or off.
Okay. I heard the word a number of times during the meeting. David used it in his speech, and Len used it in his evaluation information. I will do the Master and Grammarian report as long as I'm up here. Beth Banks also used the word several times. Steve is the winner for the day, though. He used it 3 times at least in his table topic speech. During our speeches, I heard a very nice phrase from Thomas, make you think in new directions. I thought that was very descriptive and colorful. David Licata, however, had a very, very long sentence using and at least 4 times to get his thoughts together and connect them. David Jones, in addition to not using the word of the day in his table topic speech, he had ums and ahs. And I was very startled by that because he's usually so polished and together. And that is my report for the day. Thank you.
Thank you, Toastmaster Jackie. And while we have some time, Eric, are you still available? On for a second. There he is. Just try to get everybody to contribute to the meeting. Just want to see what your thoughts are on napping and restfulness during the day. You take naps. Maybe you're napping earlier when they called on you for table topics.
Oh, put me on the spot, why don't you? No, I'm just kidding. Oh, napping. Whew. Hey, when I get home from work, I take a nap. Because I'm up at 3 a.m. every day. Well, this morning, 2 a.m. Oh, I'm still waking up, everybody. Napping is one of the most best things you can possibly do. Restfulness, yeah. I can sleep all day. If there's nothing going on during the day, I can sleep all day. Maybe I'll just turn off the phone so I don't get called by the parents and see what they want me to do. Or I'll put it on airplane mode and I'll just sleep. But even though I'm taking a nap, I can go into a deep sleep. I snore a lot. Trust me. Everybody knows me. I snore very badly. And I haven't used my CPAP machine, which is a bad thing, but but no, nap is always the best part of a stress reliever, even after I take my blood pressure medication, which by the way, I have set up for tonight. Anyway, but no, napping is always a good thing when there's nothing going on. So thank you, David, for calling upon me.
Thanks for participating. Next up, we'll have Carol Ann do a little quiz master, see if we were all paying attention during the meeting. And yes, I did have lots of ums and so's. I don't know how y'all do it at 7 a.m. for so many years, but that's my excuse. It's just being tired in the morning.
First of all, I was going to mention, my mother was the type of person that when she worked, she was able to take a 15-minute nap at lunch and be ready for the afternoon. What does a couple skills that Tracy has been developing? Yeah, right. Let's see. Mark Campus said what time he took a nap, which was a little unusual, what time he woke up from the nap. And what are Jill and Steve using the chips for they have? And what did Dave Licata see when he woke up the time he fell asleep after he drove to work? And I think this has been mentioned a few times. What grade was he in when he decided to go to work? Okay. And let's see, what place did the cartoonists live so they could get their work? And what Groucho Marx movie was he watching? Okay. And where did Tom go to do his grill? Yeah, it was Fort something. Yeah, Fort Jackson. Yeah. And what are a couple negative things about taking naps that Beth told us? Yeah, and just and can affect your nighttime sleep. And what did Dave Jones compare the microphone to? Madam Toastmaster.
Hmm.
Thank you.
And Eric had a follow-up to his napping story or something additional.
Helpful tip. You're going to take a nap. Do not sleep on the floor. I have done that a lot of times and I don't make it to my actual bed. I sleep on the love seat. I'll sleep on the floor. Did I sleep on the table? No, I never slept on the table. No, I never did that. Get me drunk, then I'll do it. But no, I'm no kidding. But don't ever sleep on the floor. Hurt your back. Learn that the hard way. Chiropractor point. So, thank you, Dave.
And back to you, Madam Table Toastmaster of the day.
Thank you, David. And moving on to our last portion where I will announce the winners. I don't think we have ribbons here today, but yes, the winners for today for best table topic speaker is Steve Smith. It's okay. All right, and our best. Well, thank you. Jackie's looking for ribbons. We'll see. Our best evaluator of the day is Len Thornton. Thank you, Len. And our best speaker of the day is Thomas Heldwine. Thank you very much. And will you, there you go. Will you? Yes.
Oh,
You gotta read it or you want me to?
last 3, 8, 4, 9.
So Dave Licata won our split club today.
Get the non-winning tickets, sign back.
Yes. Make sure you put those in the little plastic container over there. Dave, there you go. Okay, thank you very much. Thank you everyone for coming today. I appreciate it. And I guess that would be the end of our meeting.
I have a few more things, if you would, Beth.
Okay,
The Toastmaster next week is Mike Florio. I'll reach out to him. David Jones is speaker. Sylvia Baptiste is speaker. Ryan Flory. We'll have Mike reach out to him, see if he's up for it. And the alternate speaker is Mark Campos.
okay.
I
If he's available.
I cannot attend next week.
Okay. So he will not be the alternate speaker.
Okay.
As Toastmasters, it's a good thing to be proactive. Nancy Ferrier is our incoming Vice President of Education. Please send her your days off that you would have for the upcoming schedule in the summer. Anytime you have planned off. Sylvia is going to bring goodies for the officer induction next week. So that'll be nice. So some coffee and goodies. July 8th, we have the officers luncheon, incoming and outgoing officers at the New York Beer Project. What time is that, Eric? You know?
I'm pushing it for noon. Yeah, noon.
Okay, noon. Great. Just to set your calendars, and after that, we're going to go see the Indiana Jones movie. So if you are not going to be at the luncheon, that's fine. You can meet us at the movie theater. Time to be determined. August 27th for your calendars, annual Toastmasters picnic at Margin Manor. I believe it's 1 to 4, if I got it correct. So mark your calendars, and that'll be fun. Bring a dish to pass. Any other announcements or anything else?
I do want to thank Gerald for reminding me I was Toastmaster this week with everything going on. I had not looked at the schedule, so that's why everything was a little bit late, but I got it together and managed to come up with a title. So I do thank Gerald for that.
You're welcome, and pulled it off smooth, no problem. All right, if there's anything else, meeting adjourned. We'll see you next week.